How much time we get, Mr. Speaker? 5 minutes. Huh. Let me tell you something. I don't mind a challenge, and I think most of you know that. Mr. Fannin, I've told you many times that I respect you as a person and a man for the job you do. But to stand here and scold me because of what I stand for and what I believe the majority of taxpayers want us to do in this state, give me a break. There's a lot of games played in here, and I'm not going to stand here because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but he knows as well as I do what kind of control he has with this instrument. And if you don't think he does, every time I talk to him, just listen to his voice raise a little. Now, I told him I agree with him plenty of times, but there's a lot of things I disagree on. I can tell you right now, if I had a magic wand and I could follow the dots and put names on dots, it wouldn't be pretty in the newspaper, guys and gals. And that's a fact, and everyone you know it, he knows it. I have the same opportunity as anybody else elected by the same amount of people to come here and represent what I believe is the best and right thing to do for this state. And I know it's the last 4 or 5 years with the Tea Party and all the parties and all that kind of crap, everybody wants to talk about government running like a business. And I've learned when I came here that, yeah, that's not necessarily true. And those that have been here, I've said this before. My biggest lesson coming to the Baton Rouge is we do have a constituency that needs us for their everyday survival, for the basic things that you and I take for granted. I clearly get that, and I understand that. But let me tell you something. You can't keep pounding the people that pay the very taxes that affords us the ability to help the people who can't help themselves. You can't keep pounding them and ask them to pay all of our needs, all of our critical services. I've been here 5 years. Not one person, Mr. Fannin included, has been able to identify to me what the priorities of the state of Louisiana is or are. Not one person. Not the governor, not Mr. Fannin, nobody. I dare you to present me a list that here's our priorities, and this is what we should be spending our money on. Now, the appropriations process is a biscuit. And I took a year and a half off, and I told Mr. Fannin this, and for those that want to know what I did for the last 3 months, I would tell you, I spent most of my time on education until about 2 weeks ago. And I told the administration that. I haven't even looked at the budget because I had my eyeballs filled with education. Whether I wanted to be in it or not, that's where I was. If you think I didn't take my responsibility on the appropriations committee, so be it. But I was trying to do what I thought was best for the, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of children in our education system. But we have to start defining what we want government to look like. What do we want our constituents to afford, and what are they willing to pay for? There was a quote in the newspaper. It was a little off. But I did say this. I would support raising revenue if you could tell me what the critical infrastructure is needed in this state. If we're not properly funding it, I could go home and tell my constituents, this is what we need to pay for. We need more money. But I'm not doing that. We double paying people. We hired people last week making $175,000. We fire a guy not even thinking that, oh, we might have to hire somebody to take his place. And oh, by the way, we still got to pay him. Of the people making $100,000 or more in the University of Louisiana system, in the last 4 years, 25% of them, it's raised by 25%, making over $100,000. Yes, they've made cuts, but now we're paying more. A couple statistics, and this is available for everybody to look at. From 2005-06, we had a population of 4.5 million people. Our budget was $7.7 billion. Today, It's actually it's like 1,400 people less, and it's $7.5 billion. That's general fund. So that's the same. But I would tell you, when you look at where we rank with our southern states, and if y'all don't know this, we rank ourselves constantly to the 14 southern states. And you excuse me, I'm so fired up I could go fight a war right now. In 2000, you don't see it? 2005, Louisiana ranked 5th in southern states in the total staff in higher ed and ranked 9th in salaries. Now, you can't get up-to-date statistics because it's always a year that lags. In 2010, we were 7th in staff, which we improved, but I'll give you a guess of where we went on salaries. Now we rank 6th in salaries out of the 14. That's from the highest. So the sky, guys, I don't think is falling. And Mr. Speaker, you just got to bear with me, sir, if you don't mind. Because there's one other one that I want to share with them. Our per population, what we pay for every citizen in Louisiana, what it cost in Baton Rouge, in 2005 cost $4,983. Today, $6,589. We don't control our growth. That is the fact of it. I don't want to cut anybody, but this isn't about cutting. This is about what you can afford and what the taxpayers who pay the bill can afford. Do we have some tough decisions? Absolutely. But I promise you guys, those of you that are in business, you couldn't do it this way. Well, if we didn't have those little piggy banks to go rob that each of you voted over for either the last 10 years or 4 years or whatever, we would be here having this discussion. And I respectfully would tell you this when it comes to giving up your authority. In my opinion, it's the administration's responsibility by the Constitution to give us a balanced budget. Now, every day, unfortunately, you learn a new lesson in this building. And the last lesson that I've learned in the last 2 weeks is whether or not it's even constitutionally allowed what we're doing with this one-time money. Which really and honestly, those that have been around here, Mr. Gahman and I have been at odds up until about 3 weeks ago. He's my buddy again. Welcome back to the fold. But I think it's a wrong way to do it. I'd rather do it now, spread the cuts over 12 months, rather than somebody calling me and telling me they're cutting $20 million from your university. What can you do for me? Nothing. I can't. Because if this isn't a classic kick it down the road, I've never seen it. In the current budget right now, HB1, and I'd ask somebody from staff to come here for a second. Are they still here? No. They're on a furlough. Well, let me just say, since somebody said that, if there is a furlough, if they use that, you're included in it. Mr. Henry didn't know that. According to our staff, the same staff that Mr. Fannin uses, almost annually, we tell the division administration, we give them direction, and right now in HB1 is a $43 million, hey, Mr. Division Administration, you cut it the way you want. And if you call your universities right now, they'll tell you they've already been given that figure. That's not giving up our authority. But let me ask y'all something. They got a building full of people across the street making a whole lot of money. Who really has all the information, all the data? It's not you and I. That's not giving up my authority. My authority is oversight. And I'm using it. I promise you this much, and I've told some of my friends on the other side of the fiscal conservative breath. When I tried to get in their meeting yesterday, they wouldn't take me in. That's a joke, y'all. Jeez and Pete. You ain't got to be so serious. I would fully support And I wouldn't hesitate going into a special session tomorrow, which we could do if we had the to do it, and look at all our tax exemptions and see what we need to do. Some of them have been on books forever. And how do we stop the money that's being skimmed off the top before it even makes it to us? But I'm not ashamed to stand up here and tell you that I want to fight for the people paying the taxes of this state and that we need to be good stewards. There's no way you can tell me when 20 states in America, 20 states, it's on the internet, I saw it yesterday. 20 states had a forecast this current budget year where they didn't have to make any mid-year cuts and they didn't have to make any end-of-year cuts. Zero. Now, if 20 states got it right, why can't we? We were $500 million off. Now, I don't sit on that committee, and I'm not daggone smart enough to do it. But members, I would tell you this. I respect each one of you, especially since you got to buy a ticket to Hoopla. But let me tell you something. If we don't start addressing our problems and fixing them responsibly, this isn't about being a Republican or a Democrat. It just so happens that this is what I believe in. I've said this for 5 years now. We've got to get away from doing it. It's harmful. And the university in my district would much rather take a cut over 12 months than you call them up and tell them to cut $12 million today. That's what happens when you spend one-time money. When you look at the one-time money, remember something. That's not all the money that's swept. The one-time money is just not reoccurring. The reoccurring money, we're dumping into it as well. So I would tell you this. You vote however you want to vote. We tried to work with the administration, and we didn't get anywhere. That's a discussion that I'll have, and another lesson that I've learned. We negotiated in good faith. We passed the budget out of committee, didn't file any amendments to work with the administration, and we got nowhere. Members, I would ask you to support this amendment, because if you don't, then we back to square one. But we got to do something.
You have some questions, Representative Schroeder. Will you take questions? He waves.